Hi everyone, this is a really off-the-cuff mini episode just to fill the gap while I'm on holiday, and it's me and Ronan as usual, but we also have a very noisy guest on. He's coughing and spluttering. It's our good friend Alex.
Hello. Thanks for having me, boys. Oh, that's clapping. That's so nice. Thank you, guys.
Very welcome.
I think that was a pretty good introduction.
Yeah,
definitely.
We thought in this little mini episode we'd just kind of do some music recommendations and talk about things that we've been listening to, vibing with, things that have got us excited recently, and things that we could all go away and listen to almost as homework to keep us busy, I guess. But yeah, I don't know if one of you guys wants to jump in and make a start.
Yeah, I think we can quiz Alex a little bit about and this is a good introduction as well for our many listeners that are out there, which is mostly, I think we told you this, Alex, mostly my parents.
I have heard. I was wondering whether to say hello to Ronan's mum and dad when I joined. But,
yeah, go on. You can take that opportunity now.
But you never know. You never know. Hello, Ronan's mum and dad. You never know though, Ronan. One day could be a big audience.
Yeah, definitely. When people are listening back through the catalogue. Yeah, well, no. So like, I mean, should we then frame it around talking about your experience going to Bristol and getting into that? Is that what you want to talk about, or do you want to kind of talk about something else?
Well, the immediate thing that popped into my head when Louis was saying what new music I was listening to, I was going to talk about Boomtown a little bit, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, but I guess that has a very strong link with Bristol. No, just that. Yeah, I've just moved to London, but I was living in Bristol for the last year and a half, and obviously Bristol is a city renowned for its drum and bass scene, and in many ways it's a home of drum and bass, and so I sort of got into it over the last year and a half, and then that definitely has recently been accelerated by my trip. No, it's not really a trip, is it? What would you say it was? My experiences. Yeah, we'll go with that. At Boomtown Festival.
Experiences sounds very grand. Yeah, that's
yeah. Experiences. Yeah, we'll go with that. At Boomtown, obviously I liked a lot of the music before I went, but there's obviously something completely different, as I'm sure you two would agree, about like listening to music, sort of live and proper sound systems, and yeah, and just at a music festival where everyone else is also super excited about that music and stuff. So yeah, I think there's that sort of context to it as well. So in terms of like the new music I've been listening to, it's been like a lot of sort of stuff along that sort of Boomtown sort of vibe. So dub and reggae and obviously drum and bass as well.
Cracking, yeah. So I'm excited, as I keep on saying, that you've kind of got into some of this of dubby stuff, because I feel like that is just great. That is not an insightful comment, but I love some of that stuff. I feel like my dad keeps on getting constant mentions on this, but that was just like another kind of genre that I feel like my dad turned me on to, and I guess it was probably in its infancy really back when he'd have been listening to it. Like, it sort of came out of the 70s, I suppose, and the fact that it's just still around and it's still thriving and it's still kind of reinventing itself a little bit, and it's just infinitely a good time, is just great. I love when things have such a long life like that. It's just lovely. Basically, that's maybe slightly more insightful than saying it's great.
And then go on to influence like other genres and the scene in general, really. Like when sounds are around for that long, they definitely kind of play into the greater cultural dynamic, don't they? You can't exist that long without influencing at least a couple of other artists who then bring that over into stuff. I will say though that I feel like I have quite a limited knowledge on especially like the dub scene and the reggae scene. So I don't know if there's any particular like artists you saw live, Alex, that kind of blew you away and that you'd want to like recommend, or.
I mean, if I was gonna say just like quintessential dub, I mean, this person wasn't at Boomtown at all, but I think Ronan, like King Tubby, is it?
Yeah, King Tubby.
And yeah, if I'd say he's like a sort of quintessential like dub person to be listening to, but obviously there is a lot of overlap with like reggae. And the other thing I was just thinking actually while you're talking to me was that I mentioned, I thought we could almost talk about it in a little bit, but it's because I'm obviously getting a little bit sidetracked right now, but that like jungle as a genre as well, and how like lots of like drum and bass is itself. There's a lot of people at the festival, performing who'd be like jungle. It's drum and bass. It's all jungle. Like the way that this term, jungle being the classic and the roots of D&B and all of that as well. But we can come into that in a little bit. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. But yeah,
we're all about tangent actions.
Sorry, yeah, no, I just felt like I had to mention it, and at least somebody can mention it. We can come back to it, maybe.
Yeah, put a pin in it.
Yeah. So a bit. I guess a really like sort of famous group that go around at the moment are at lots of festivals. I think they basically just make all of their money from being at festivals and touring. Gentleman's Dub Club as well. I don't know if you've ever listened to them.
I don't think so. I think you told me about them the other day. I still need to listen.
Yeah, they're quite an interesting group. I probably would get a lot of slack for talking about them, but like straight after King Tubby, because they're like this group of white lads from London who went to uni in Leeds together and like just started playing loads of dub. They are like a lot of fun.
That is fun.
They're like a 12-piece group. There's like saxophones, lots of
12.
trumpet. Like they're like really fun, and they were so good. They were so good. Yeah, have you got any other ones that you'd want to chime in with, Ronan, if you were talking about dub?
Oh, I mean, not really. I'm glad you mentioned King Tubby, just because King Tubby is just like the OG, and yeah, like sort of those kind of using the studio as an instrument essentially is just endlessly influential. I mean, that is pretty much. I know that there's kind of other genres from the time that sort of were starting to do similar things. I mean, the studio was a huge part of disco as well, I suppose, but just literally playing the studio like King Tubby did. I mean, that is just all of dance music ever since, really. Like, so definitely King Tubby. What's his name? Lee Scratch Perry is kind of the other like old school guy, but I've always been more King Tubby leaning. I don't really know why.
Is that a bit of a rivalry? Is that like a little bit of a Biggie Tupac thing, or is that just
not that I'm aware of? But I've just if it is, I'll adopt King Tubby as my side of it. I don't know. I think King Tubby's more of like a proper engineer. I don't know, and like literally move like I picture him moving the kind of dials as the stuff plays and just constantly like fades stuff in and sort of echoes it back out and whatever else, like whereas I don't, this is going to sound really unfair on Lee Scratch Perry. Lee Scratch Perry is a legend, so now I'm actually immediately wanting to backtrack, but kind of a little bit more will just kind of like just oomph the bass and give it a kind of underwater sound and it's more just an overall vibe. There's less of that sense of like a real technical engineer playing an instrument almost. Like King Tubby though, like famously gets like a load of tracks like apparently attributed to him, and it's not even him, so fuck knows even.
I feel like maybe we could agree on that as being someone if you wanted to explore dub, King Tubby would be a good person to listen to.
I've made a note of it. I've been making a note of all the little the mentions as you're going, just because it is like a genre that I want to kind of experience more of. And to be fair, Boomtown looks like mental as an experience in and of itself. So like, it'd be worth kind of getting a sample of the music on offer, even if it's just to kind of give you an entranceway into that. Was there any like crazy like, I don't know, stages or performances in particular that like?
Have you guys ever heard of Near Archives before? I mean, there was a lot of like very, very good drum and bass. I think Boomtown this year didn't actually release their lineup until 4 days before the festival began.
Oh, that's brave.
Yeah, they got a lot of. I guess a lot of people were a little bit annoyed beforehand because they couldn't sort of judge whether they wanted to go or not. But I think it was a very deliberate thing that they did. I don't know if obviously the music industry really suffered over COVID and especially festivals. But I saw some report on Boomtown's accounts, and sorry, the road outside is very loud. They had something like, I think it's about 8 million in the bank, like just before COVID, just as that includes sort of money that they'd saved up as sort of cash. That was their cash reserve. And then, by the end of proper end of COVID, after Omicron and all of that, they were sitting on something like 150,000. So there was like this very real sense that it could very much not continue as a festival. So they scaled everything back. So Boomtown is obviously like every year is a continuation of the previous year's story, and you have chapters.
Yeah.
And this year was chapter 1. They restarted it all.
That's cool.
The festival was actually slightly scaled down. It wasn't as big as it usually is. I mean, it's still huge, obviously, but
I mean, it must have felt like pretty special to be like part of that opportunity, that kind of rebirth.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. Yeah. And I think as someone who hasn't been to one before, right, like that, to me, it didn't really make a difference. It was all still like very exciting. But, you know, there were definitely, I was with one lad who was going, oh, it was bigger than this last time, and that was over there, etc., etc. But it was still vast. And it was during the heat wave, and it honestly was like, the only way I can describe the festival was, it was like Mad Max.
Oh my God.
It was that vibe. Like, everybody was walking around with like masks on over there, and like bandanas and like goggles, and everyone, you're just covered in dust the whole time. And it was like the scene when they're going through the Desert Storm, and they were playing like all the music and stuff like that, but nobody was like killing each other. It was that wasn't happening. But everything else,
Yeah, it was like a friendly Mad Max vibe.
yeah, everything else was exactly the same. People like desperately trying to find water all the time. But yeah, that felt like a little bit of the vibe at times. But it was really, really good. But sorry, again, on a tangent from people that I saw that were good. I created a little playlist afterwards called Sounds of Boomtown.
Oh, nice.
Which was just people that I'd seen and thought were really good. Yeah, Neo Archives was amazing. I knew a little bit I had listened to a bit of her before, and she was honestly one of the best sets I saw. I saw Alex Perez on the Sunday. He was one of the sort of bigger names doing drum and bass. He was really good as well. Laid Black is like a sort of a dub reggae sort of drum and bass. That whole general scene. They're a Bristol group. They were really good as well. There was a lot of musicians from Bristol.
Is your Sound of Boomtown playlist public? Would you be willing to like share it?
I think I can definitely send it to both of you. It needs it was an immediate I'm going to throw some tracks on it once I finish.
Yeah.
So it needs some more me adding some tracks to it, but it's still 4 hours long. Just flicking through. So there's definitely a selection of names in there. Laid Black were really good, and then also the final one that I want to mention is Eva Lazarus, and this is amazing.
I hadn't heard of Neo Archives until literally just the other day. I saw her on, Amelia de Moldenberg, the chicken shop date. She went to Reading and ended up on stage with Neo Archives, I think. So I need to check her out.
On the way.
Yeah, she's great. If I was going to pick a track for you to listen to, Forbidden Feelings is a great tune. A little bit more drum and bassy.
I'll get on it.
And then Sober Feels is a little bit more, I guess, like mainstreamy kind of, but both really
Nice.
good. Yeah, Eva Lazarus, she does a lot of the vocals on drum and bass tracks, and for dub groups and stuff like that. She's amazing, and she was on stage on the Sunday. She'd already been on with a group called Mungo's Hi-Fi, which again another group worth listening to. And then she had her own set for an hour or something like that. And about halfway through, and it was such a good vibe. She was amazing, beautiful vocals, everybody just sort of dancing. It wasn't too intense. There'd been a lot of quite intense drum and bass. And in the middle of it, she just after she finished the track, she was just last time I was at Boomtown was 2019, 3 years ago, and I was pregnant and I couldn't tell anyone, and I was so scared. And now I'm performing at Boomtown, and my baby's over there, and she pointed over, and there's this tiny little baby, not tiny, it was a 3-year-old, on someone's shoulders with a pair of ear protectors.
Wow,
actually adorable.
And everyone just started waving at the baby. Everyone was waving at this baby, and then it waved back, and everyone was just going wild. It was this is the most wholesome thing. And then and then he went on stage at the end and was waving at everyone, just trotting around like toddlers.
That's incredible.
One of the highlights of the festival. It was
What a
honestly
vibe.
so wholesome. Yeah, it was great. Really, really good.
Was the crowd all a good energy then, a wholesome, behavior? Obviously everyone's kind of dancing, moshing along, I imagine, but everyone's kind of looking out for each other and stuff like that, just to have a good time.
Definitely, and I think Eva Lazarus was definitely that sort of crowd as well. At 3 a.m. with some there's this guy, I forgot his name now. I'll have to find it at some point, but one of the DJs on the Saturday night performing quite late, he was literally just like going, "You're all fucking cunt weirdos. Tell me your guns." Am I allowed to swear? Sorry,
you are. Like,
that.
we've been doing
Sorry,
plenty of it. I
everyone.
did get told off by my parents for how much we did it. We hadn't even noticed. But
Oh, right. Sorry, I apologise. I mean, that was like a quote in some ways. I'm not lying. That's what
yeah, that's fine.
At like 3 a.m. in the morning, like I was feeling just slightly fragile, fragile, and being told to like scream this and scream at everyone around me. I was like,
not for me. Not tonight.
But my younger brother Sam, who loves his drum and bass, he was skanking, he was loving it, and I was just like, I'm too old for it.
Getting old, mate.
Yeah, there are limits, right? Like, I do really like drum and bass and stuff like that, but I wouldn't say I was like...
When you say, like, it got really intense, aside from just the guy telling you to shout at people and swear at people, and in fact, swearing at you, was it, like, more just that intense bass-heavy drum and bass, or was it kind of like jungle, where it's, like, intense in terms of, like, the drums and kind of the drum patterns and all? I don't know whether that sort of distinction makes sense, but, like...
Yeah, it does. It was bass-heavy, and, like... You know, when they have the really strong electronic sounds in it as well.
Yeah,
sort of heavy.
Yeah, okay. That's kind of what I'd imagined.
Yeah, when they like throw it in for like... I sort of felt like it's a deliberate, almost like anxiety-inducing noise at times, that they just like throw it in.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to be listening. If somebody listens to this, they'll just be like, "You're just so wrong." Like, But that's just how it made me feel a little bit. I was just like, I can't hack this anymore. But that, I listened to a lot of really, really great vibey drum and bass as well. But I think in that example, it was just a little bit too much. But that could have been the state I was in at 3 a.m. in the morning as well. So
has Boomtown been driving like what you've kind of been listening to recently then? Have you been on kind of a wave of all these different like dub and genres and stuff since being, and you've just been kind of on that vibe?
I would say, yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah, listening to a lot of like drum and bass, a lot of liquid drum and bass as well, which I just find a bit easier to listen to like if I'm working or something like that, just because it's not quite as
aggressive.
Basically it's just quite vibey. I've been listening to that, and then I think as well, like they'd probably like it began to like I cooled off a little bit on it, and then I was at Carney a couple of weeks ago now, and obviously that's got some really great like sound systems going on, and again it just was like just brought it all back, and suddenly you're sort of dancing in Notting Hill, having a good time.
Loving it again, yeah.
So I think it's definitely that is the majority of what I've been listening to. Yeah, although someone showed me, do you know Michael Cera produces music?
As in Superbads and like that.
As in Superbad.
What?
Michael Cera.
No, I.
The man has 500,000 monthly listeners. His top track has got 25 million listens.
What?
You need to go away and check it out. You have to go
this is a recommendation of the episode. If you're not going to listen to anything else,
this is crazy.
Find Michael Cera.
But he's not.
But from 2014, his album's from 2014.
He's not making drum and bass though, is he? Is this just like a tangential?
No. Oh, no.
I mean, I can't imagine that is fully what I've been imagining. But yeah.
I feel like I've just
behind a deck.
No, I almost went back in my head about the general question of what have I been listening to, and it cropped into my head. I had been listening to.
Is it actually good? Have you been enjoying his stuff?
I don't know. I only listened to it a couple of times, and it's actually very much. I'm really upset now he doesn't produce drum and bass. So
we should write.
For the sake of this podcast, we've got to produce a D&B track now.
Yeah. We can convince him. I'm sure we've got that kind of influence. I need to check that out. That's incredible.
Yeah, man.
I can't believe that.
Yeah. I think I'm more shocked. I thought it'd be quite recent, but I've just seen that it's from 2014, and I'm suddenly like, oh, I was like gone under the radar for so long. Yeah,
some real underground stuff right there.
Yeah. Have either of you two got into any musical artists from festivals this summer? I'll tell you who, like Ronan, when we saw Karangabin at Across the Tracks.
Yeah, I mean, that was like, I guess I was kind of already into Karangabin, but that was like amazing. I actually think it really gave me another appreciation for them, because that way that they essentially medleyed so many songs, and it went from like instantly kind of like hugely famous tunes to like slightly more like, I guess underground. So like a lot of it was like hip hop based, I guess. So it jumped from like classic G-funk tunes to like MF Doom to like all sorts. It was just covering
Oh, that sounds
every base.
so up my valley.
Yeah, you'd have loved it, Louis. It was right up your street. But actually, from that festival, I think I just gained a whole new appreciation for Giles Peterson. Shout out Giles Peterson, because
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
yeah, I mean, you saw me vibing, Alex. I was
you were loving it. It was great.
That was just pure ecstasy. It's just like kind of an insane experience. Like I think just when a DJ has that ability to select tracks just perfectly, like just kind of read a vibe, or I guess just have such a deep knowledge of music that you can kind of sift between genres seamlessly. It's just amazing. And when it's just like it comes across as like somebody that's just so passionate about each song that they're playing, and he would just occasionally do that like classic radio DJ thing of like, and this is such and such person, classic of this genre, you know, like all that kind of stuff. That was just such an experience.
And when they feel the need or like the desire to give a certain track a shout out,
oh yeah,
they're like calling your attention to it because they're like, you actually should go away and listen to this like properly.
That's made me think of just that very like. Have you heard of David Rodigan before? Rodigan, I think he's he's another radio DJ, and he did a set at Boomtown sort of midday on the Friday, I think. Can't quite remember, but like it was absolutely packed out for him, and he'd been this DJ in London but also in Jamaica. So this old white guy who spoke with like just a slight Jamaican accent, you know, and you're just like, where have you got that? He did live in Jamaica for a while, but really, really cool. And he, like, it was almost like every track he was going to introduce, he told a little anecdote about it. So he'd be like, I was on the radio in 1983, and we had this DJ competition where we were trying to find one of the upcoming female reggae producers in Jamaica, and this is what we found. And then he played Sister Nancy, and it was just like, whoa, that's where that comes from. Like, and it was just banger after banger. It was so good, so good. It was very similar to Giles Peterson. Clearly, absolutely loved the music. And had like lots of like stories.
The other one we've got to give a mention for there then is just Mr. Scruff then, just because that is the closest I have to a cult-like obsession with a musician, I think. Mr. Scruff is the DJ that you can show to people who hate DJs, I feel. He's just so good. And whatever your music taste is, he will probably manage to cover it in his mammoth sets. Oh, just what a G, Mr. Scruff.
And in fact, that sort of wrapped up really nicely, Ronan. I'm at Warehouse Project this Saturday, and I'm going to see Giles Peterson, David Rodigan, and Mr. Scruff all together.
No way!
Oh, that is mad. That's going to be good. That is going to be very good. Yeah. Oh, you got to send some videos if there's some good tracks dropped there, which no doubt there will be.
Thank you for joining this little Minisode episode. A little bit of a filler while I'm away, but it was our pleasure to have a little chat and hear from Alex, and we'll definitely have him on again in the future. I hope you all enjoyed listening.
Yeah,
and
I think I was referred to as a filler. But, yeah.
You're not the filler.
I mean, look at it this way, like
whatever. You can have me back.
The filling is always the best bit of a sandwich. I don't know whether that quite works with the metaphor, but
Good say. Thanks, Ronan. You've always got a way of making me feel better about myself.
You're very welcome. I'm going to be a life coach or something. Another life.
But the heart is also heavy.